Get a thumb out of your mouth, boy.
Who that?
Get a thing out of your mouth. Run, Trey.
Oh, you got the boys with you?
Dana, touch the person.
I told him I'm gonna cut those things off.
When I was a child,
Oh, good morning.
I shook my finger.
Hey. You know what you're supposed to be doing.
Thank you, Sister ELZEY.
You're welcome.
All right. Good morning. We're gonna pick up this morning from the book of Proverbs in chapter 8. We stopped off on verse
Eight.
verse 12. Verse 12. But so we're going to pick up there. And I just want to hit on a couple things. I just want to hit on a few things this morning. I always set most of my life. I try to deal in logic, and everything that in the second half of my life, most of my career has been dealing with numbers.
All right.
And dealing with numbers in my career, in my work. Everything has to have logic and everything has to make sense. And if it don't make sense, I sometimes I just won't deal with certain things because it don't make sense during that time period. If it don't make sense, I just won't deal with it because it has to have some kind of logic to it. And I've been dealing with some things with these doctors, like I was telling my wife about it when we were here. One doctor that's supposed to have been doing surgery on my hand didn't put it off a couple of times. And they were saying, we need to get your A1C down, so we want you to go in and have a A1C test in order to do it. So I went down and then took it, and they said, well, it's a little high, so you have to bring it down and then do another one. And I said, so I asked them why, because they asked them why. Well, the healing process. I said, it don't make sense. So I went in and I went to Dr. Dacus was on, he dropped off. Okay. I went back in and had my eye surgery done, as y'all know, on Wednesday. The nurses at the VA was when I walked in, they were very attentive. They treated me like I was somebody. And they watched over me, and when they took me back to the operating room, the doctors and the operating staff, when they got a little group huddle and told them they discuss what they're going to do and when they do it. And they came to me, tried to make me real comfortable. I was going through it. Came out, they right. It made sense to what they did. So I get an email from the hand surgeon at Kaiser. Well, you need to have you do another A1T test before I meet with you on the 2nd. Your surgery's on the 9th. I said, this is not making sense. So I emailed and I said, could you please explain to me and let me know whether or not you're going to do the surgery or not? I said, because I just went through surgery on my eye.
Right.
And they didn't bother. They already knew what my A1C was. They already knew what everything was at. And they went on and did my eye surgery. So my thing was, what is more sensitive? Now, what she's going to do is the same thing they did on my right hand. Is make a small incision, and get an injection in the hand, a small incision, to go in and snip the little tube that the ligament runs through in order to free it up. They put 2 stitches in and send you home. And it's a week or so of deal. So I'm asking her, what is more sensitive, the eye or that incision that you're going to do on my hand? See, logic See, I deal in logic. And when I design a building or I'm looking at low structures on a building or looking at slopes on hillsides to figure out whether or not something would move and how deep you would have to put pier things in order to make things work, I'm dealing with numbers. And that's logical. I deal with logic. What she's telling me is not logical. And so here, the reason why I'm saying it is because in dealing with Solomon and wisdom, Solomon dealt with logic. There's a lot of things within this process that has to be logical. We go into church, we listen to the preachers talk, we listen to people talk in church,
Mm-hmm.
and if you really listen, a lot of it don't make sense. We don't deal with logic within the structure of the church in God's word. And logic basically is getting an understanding
Break it down.
of making sense of something. It has making sense and getting an understanding how things work.
Uh-huh.
I like Spock. I used to like Spock on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Logical.
Yeah.
He deals in logic.
Yeah.
But we look at it as entertainment. But think about it. If you're listening to a preacher in church, someone that's responsible for your soul,
Make it plain.
and you don't understand, and what he's saying don't make, he or she is saying don't make sense,
Come on.
is that logical?
You know, don't understand it.
So why do we deal with it? Why do we put up with stuff that we don't have to?
Good question.
So we need to start. And it took the first half of my life. I think God was just merciful on me, so He let me get away with a lot of stuff because
Talk about it.
sometimes I didn't look at things logically. If I did, I wouldn't have made some of the decisions I made. But He worked on me, and let me get through the first half of my life.
Talk about it.
So I'm in my second half of life now. So I learned a lot from the first half, and what he taught me is so that I can pass it on. Dr. Dakins.
Morning, sir.
I say something I know if I heard you or not.
I said, good morning,
Yes.
sir.
Do you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, I hear you.
Morning. I don't hear you. Let me check my speakers. I don't hear you. Let me plug in another one.
Uh-oh. You froze up. You're out. What happened? Okay. I don't know what happened here. Let's see if we're still on or still in. Well, I'm in here by myself, looks like now. Hello? All right. I don't know what happened to Bishop. I'm in here by myself, looks like now. I don't know what happened to Bishop ELZEY. I don't know what happened to Bishop myself. Hopefully he'll come back in. He's talking about being logical and reasonable. You know, there's a saying in business, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And in life, if it's not beneficial, then it's not logical. What's the purpose? Because life is based on purpose. God said in Ecclesiastes, there's a time, a season, and a purpose to everything under the sun. You can't operate without purpose. When you operate outside of purpose, you're upsetting the process